Welcome to Realtor Talk with Steph and Kel.
Hey guys,
Hi, I'm Stefanie Campbell.
and I'm Kelly Dugan.
Whether you're buying, selling, or just curious on the ins and outs of the real estate world, you've come to the right place.
What are we going to talk about on this podcast?
Everything, duh.
You name it, we cover it.
Tune in weekly as we bring you insightful conversations with industry experts, success stories, horror stories, and definitely some laughs along the way.
Hello.
What's up? What's up?
Welcome to episode 24.
Are we? I hope we're right about that.
We are. I double checked after the last
Oh my
one.
god! Okay.
I was getting dressed today and I went to go put on a black shirt and I'm like, why do I feel like every podcast I have a black shirt on? And I went through and literally the last 6 all black. I'm like, I'm gonna wear brown today.
Wait, me
Not that
too?
anybody.
Me too, or just you?
It was just me. You had
Oh.
you switched it up a decent amount, but I
And
just.
look, I'm wearing red for the old school at Properties.
I know. I was kind of
What's
wondering
up,
why that
what's
looked
up?
different because there's no Christie's.
Yep.
Oh, gee.
And I mean, of course, I worked out this morning because like I am really fit and work out every day.
Oh, yeah. Stephanie threw her back out
I-
today.
I'm
Every
so
move she
mad.
makes is, ah, ah. Like literally, she drops a pen and she's like, ooh.
I know, it's so bad. And this happens every once in a while. Usually it's the right side of my back, and this time it's the left. I'm like, what the heck?
Do you stretch?
Yes, I do.
That's one thing that I don't really. I wish. I mean, I do. If you can just think of the bare minimum, that's what I do. That's like been a goal of mine for a while is to be better.
Stretch?
Just to be better. I mean, I work out and like lift weights, almost every day during the week, and I don't stretch near as much as I should.
I know. You know what? And I'm like, I'm to the point where like the only workout I'm gonna be able to do is yoga because my body's like old and broken. And I don't know if it's from having kids or being out of shape or like what.
Well, you work out. I think the key is to just always be like lifting weights. I feel like your body will like disintegrate if
do.
you don't. No, I know, but that's why I don't. I feel like yoga is great for you, but I think you should at least have like 1 or 2 weightlifting days.
Like when can we make all this time? That's why I was gonna have to have a showing at noon today.
Why don't you anymore?
They rescheduled to Thursday. And so that's why I got to come in looking like this because, only on the podcast days
You know
do
what?
I get to look my absolute best.
It's such a hit or miss for me because it truly depends on my workload for that day. Like,
That's what
I'll
I'm
be
saying.
honest, if I have one showing, chances are that showing is not going to see me looking to the 9s that day. But if I have it, like,
Isn't that the truth though? Like it's really hard. Or if some clients that I'm comfortable with and I show up in workout clothes and I'm like, this shows you how much I love you. If I wear workout clothes in front of you, that means that we are like basically besties.
if I lived by that rule, everyone would be my best friend because if it's a morning showing, this is honestly sometimes my thought process with it. I'm like, my brain is not right if I don't like work some of that energy out at the gym. And so when I show up in my workout clothes looking unprofessional, I'm like, little do they know, like I work out to have a sharp brain. Like this is for the greater good of everybody.
I know. I told somebody else that the other day that like you have to work out to get your energy for the day.
For sure.
I'm like, that's so funny. I wish that was my mentality.
But don't you
I-
feel it when you do? Like after you work out, like I feel like
I'm kind of hating my body right now, so it's hard to.
well, yeah, because you pulled what did you do?
I don't
Sciatica?
know. It's like my back right here, like on my side. It's
And you
like
don't go to the chiro?
I know.
No,
Okay.
I don't
No,
either.
I've never been to the chiropractor.
I've only been twice in my life, and I did love it every time. But I don't know why I stopped going. Maybe I just didn't feel the need.
I don't know what I'm gonna do, but something. Feel free to write in.
Wait, really quick. You want to know what you need to talk about? That I've gotten text messages after the podcast asking about you and your car and like how they felt bad for you.
God.
You guys, listen. If you didn't listen to the last 2 or 3 episodes
shoot,
ago,
I forgot.
long story short, Stephanie's car got stolen. But there's an
It's
update.
found. It's literally like it was basically in the lost and found, and it was found. It's a kind of crazy story. And it's funny you bring this up actually because I just sent all my like contesting of my tickets
Oh yeah.
in.
Yeah, Stephanie pulls out a lot of envelopes out of her back seat the other day, just City of Chicago tickets.
And I'm like, I know these are all the tickets I got from where it was illegally parked. So I get a call like a week later from the insurance company that's like, your car's been removed from the theft list.
And we were sitting here in the office when she got the call.
Yes. And I'm thinking this thing is like, it's bad. So I get a call from the cop. So anyway, the State Farm, my insurance, was like, call the police, because I'm like, why haven't the police notified me?
Right.
Like, that's
weird that the insurance would first.
Very weird. But I mean, I guess, you know what? Chicago. Okay.
So where was it?
So I called the police. It was at the impound. Niall and I, ate up another 5 hours of my freaking life, if not more, going to the impound that night. And it was like storming. It was terrible. I'm talking to the impound people. And I'm like, okay, what kind of condition is this car in? They're reading the report off to me, and they're like, there's scratches on the front, there's scratches on the back, the inside looks like it's been gone through. I'm like,
Stephanie's like, little do you know, I did all that.
No, I literally, looking at my husband, I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. I'm like, no way the computer's in there, because my computer was in my car. Mind you, it was under stuff, but my husband goes with the police officer. We had the cops meet us there, and they pull my car out. He drives it out, and my car is in perfect shape. Like,
insane.
Perfect shape, never touched. I have one weird thing going on with my car door.
They probably tried to get in it.
I don't know. Somebody explain to me what this is. But the car door window is no longer flush with the car. Like, it's like somebody almost tried to pry the door open, and they like bent it. That's the only weird thing. But like,
that is weird.
Why couldn't they get into my car? It makes no sense. My car
was why didn't they
essentially-
try harder to get into your car? Like, everything's untouched.
Because it was in the middle of the Gold Coast. It was the first illegal tow was towed a block away from where I was located.
And just left there, though?
And
like, there's no logic.
And so it was found there to be towed, I think, like 5 days or to a week later. And the other thing I can't understand is, like, I called the police multiple times asking them to run my plates. They're telling me for where it was located, cameras should have picked up my plates.
That's true.
So, like, the whole thing makes zero sense. I'm very, very fortunate. I'm happy my car was found. And that's basically it. Like, it was a huge pain in my butt and a lot of unnecessary drama. And it ate up, like, 3 of my work days. Like, that was the worst. Honestly, the worst part about all this was the inconvenience.
And the computer.
And then also I had to pay $250 to get my car to the impound. They shouldn't have charged me, but they did, because the police officer that requested the second tow didn't look to see that it was on the stolen car list. And so the impound made me pay. I'm like, is this some kind of money grab scheme?
I'm sure it is.
I'm like, it's just very annoying. So I'm happy, but
wild.
Also, yeah, very wild. So good old White Lightning's back in my possession, and so is my amazing computer.
Oh my, yeah, I know. It's funny, actually. Roxy's mom texted me. She's so sweet. She's like our biggest fan on the podcast, and she's like, I loved the podcast, and oh my goodness, I feel so terrible for Stephanie. I'm like, oh my gosh, great news. She's like, oh, thank goodness.
Okay,
I'm like, we gotta update everyone.
We did have to update this. Sorry, we are like,
all right, so on to this topic. I wish that I was putting Stephanie on the hot seat to really dive deep about the true election, but we're just going to talk about
Kelly.
We're just going to talk about the housing market in the election. Stephanie's just really funny to get going on it. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Those of you that know me know me.
Is that why you wore that color today?
You're so naughty. You are naughty with a capital N.
All right.
Okay, so
we got some data here.
And I want to say that Kelly and I's opinion, well, maybe it's just mine. Maybe it's just my opinion that might not totally align with what the data necessarily says. And we're going to tell you both, because you know what? You're here to hear our opinion, right? One thing that I have thought forever and always is that, and this is just from living in previous elections and having this job, I have always thought that election seasons had a negative impact on the real estate market. That has always been my thought, my feeling, my review of how my own business goes during that time. And the reason is because people are traditionally just nervous during election season.
like nervous of the unknown. I think people are more hesitant to make really big decisions during a time period where there is a lot up in the air. There's a lot of hostile levels. Like I feel like that this is a little bit of a unique election season too, in my opinion, of just like I just feel like it's intense. Yeah. And I think that too, it's also like two extremes, like obviously when there's an election, but you're right. I feel like that people are more likely to have a more pause when they're not sure what's going on. But I was really happy and, just surprised a little bit to see on what it does after the election. Because everything that we've seen is prices go up and the market gets a little spike after the election, which honestly makes sense. Because I think
that makes total sense. And that's not necessarily different than any fall to spring market.
I was just going to say that.
That's the overall takeaway, is that, in my opinion, during election season, people just kind of freeze. And the reason they freeze is because if you have any concern or worry or question about the future, people just don't make big decisions during that time, just like Kelly just said. So, but also fall coincides with a slower time of real estate in general, especially around the holidays. That is like a typical normal fall. I personally feel that it's a little bit worse during election season than it is in a typical fall. The data can't necessarily back it up, but what I do think is interesting, that typically after election season, the market gets busy kind of right after it's over, which that makes total sense because it's like a bottled up
people
energy.
Were waiting on the sidelines, essentially. Yes. And then also, too, I'm actually going to read a couple things. So this is an article from Keeping Current Matters. It's actually a really resourceful page to follow. It's phenomenal. It pulls information like straight from NAR.
They have great social media channels, too. Like, I give them a follow. What's it called again?
Keeping Current Matters. Yeah. We both always share them on our story, but it's really good to just follow them, and then everything that's relevant in today, they usually post. But it says... Let's see. After 9 of the last 11 presidential elections, home sales went up the next year. 7 of the 8, home prices increased of the following. And then also mortgage rates are forecasted to drop too. So that's going to be another.
I want to just be like, I told you so. I'm right.
You did say that.
I've said this, I think, on this podcast.
It didn't happen yet.
Okay, it didn't happen
yet.
It did
kind of, actually.
I could. No, you're right. It has happened.
It did.
But I have said that several times, that they are going to lower interest rates prior to the election because, we got a sales pitch going on right now, guys.
Because this is what it says. Most forecasts expect mortgage rates to ease slightly throughout the remainder of the year. If they're right, this year will follow the trend of declining rates leading up to most previous elections. So if you're looking to buy a home in the coming months, this could be good news. And that's honestly what I tell a lot of my buyers who aren't in a huge rush. I tell my buyers who are scared of selling and buying at the same time, in the sense of it being a hot market. Oh, my bad. Sciatica. I know. Fall and winter, I love like teeing up my buyers to be ready to buy in the fall and the winter, because you're going to have dramatically less competition in the marketplace. It's really inconvenient usually to sell in the winter and the fall, and a lot of people are selling because they have to. Yeah. So there's now, ones on there throwing it up usually for 50 grand more just to see what happens. Like usually you have to move if you're listing during those months. Yeah. So I love that for buyers. I love telling buyers fall and winter, let's hit it hard, because I personally feel like spring market starts in the middle of January.
It does. It literally does, especially in the city. And I will say that if I were a buyer and I wasn't stressed about selling, or didn't have to factor that in, if I was just in the market to buy, I would be 100% looking aggressively like October. Like I would be, start looking now, and I
get
would
pre-approved, get ready.
I would want to be purchasing like smack dab in the middle of the holidays. That is like prime time deal time.
No, I 100% agree. I tell all my buyers that aren't, because the fact of the matter is you're not gonna get the prices that are in the fall and the winter. Those are not going to be the January, February prices. They're not.
And I will say, even in
and
this
if they are, they're going to get overbid.
There has to be ever so slightly some data in this article to back up kind of what we're saying.
That's true.
Because it does say historically presidential elections have only had a small temporary impact on the housing market, but it's still an impact. They said during the month of November, in years when the presidential election takes place, there's typically a slight slowdown in home sales.
Should we go on vacation in November?
I mean,
that's honestly not a
I
bad
think
idea.
I'm thinking about it, actually. So my point is that's the time.
Yeah, and in all reality, I mean, to each their own, whatever makes you feel comfortable, but the election and who wins the election is going to happen either way. And
yeah,
in my opinion, no matter what side it is, like, it's not going to, I don't think it's going to be detrimental to your specific real estate transaction scenario.
Yeah, I sure hope not. Yeah.
So as all of the headlines and everybody is staying, far away from the housing market and just kind of seeing what this all brings, take advantage. Go out and, if sellers have their house on the market for 2-3 weeks, like they might start sweating because obviously it's getting colder, everything's getting slower. So my advice would be to pounce during that slow November time. But
yeah, man.
That's just me.
Yeah. So that's all she wrote, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to summarize, basically, November's always slow. It's not a huge difference between presidential elections and typical fall markets is what the data says. I think anecdotal data would tell me that election season is even slower.
Yeah.
But what I do find interesting is that right after election seasons, the market seems to pick up.
Which makes sense.
Even more so than other spring markets. So I think that's interesting data that I wasn't necessarily aware of, but like you said, it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what January is like because this past January was so busy for me, and I remember like mentally preparing for it to be like February starting, but I think it's been, as I go back and like look at like just my numbers from the past years, like I do feel like January it does start like spring market almost. And
absolutely, because it's after the holidays, people are like
they're ready.
Yeah,
so imagine that on top of after the election. I do think it's going to be a crazy beginning of 2025. So biggest piece of advice to buyers is I would say to take advantage of that time. Biggest piece of advice to sellers is if you have to sell during these times, just price accordingly. And there's still a ton of buyers out there. I mean, inventory is really low. Look at us telling our buyers to wait and make a move in fall and winter. So there's still going to be buyers. Yeah. You just have to price accordingly to the market because we're not in the spring and summer anymore.
Yep. That's it.
And there you have it. Anything else?
No. Bada bing, bada boom.
I know. I'm just trying to think of any other things we haven't been on in a while.
What?
We haven't.
I mean, they know that my back is broken, my car is found,
That's
and
true.
Interest rates are going down. Like, what else is there to share, guys?
So true. All right, I guess we'll get you guys on the next one.
Please submit topics. We love topic ideas.
Yes, we really do. We actually do have a couple I could have went and sifted through before we did this one. We could do those next.
Okay, next time. Maybe I'll put makeup on next time.
All right, maybe.
All right.
Bye, guys. Thanks for listening.
Tune in weekly for new episodes.
Follow the link in the show notes to answer our survey and have your topics talked about on Realtor Talk with Steph and Kel.
Thanks for listening. Until next time.
Bye.
Ciao.